Hello, welcome to our first video of Morgan Economics. In this video, I will be introducing you to what game theory is. The title of this video is Introduction to Game Theory, but there are three terms that you need to be aware of for your fullest understanding in this video. Firstly is the idea of interdependence, secondly is payoff, and finally is the payoff matrix. As we go through this video, we'll be exploring each of these terms in depth. Now, the first question you may be asking though is what exactly is game theory? Well, game theory is essentially a game that is played by two people, whether it be chess or gamuku played by little children, or you need to place 5 marbles in a row to win a game. Game theory is essential to understanding how two people behave in relation to one another. But in the context of economics, where two oligopolists behave in situations of interdependence, the story can become quite different. Their profit, the individual's profit, depends not only on their own actions, but also upon the actions of their counterpart or their opponent, which is why the idea of game theory becomes much more interesting. But let's firstly explore the first term we have here, interdependence. Interdependence is a relationship in which the outcome or the profit of each firm depends on the actions of the other firm, depends on the actions of the opponent in the market. To understand interdependence, we must do more than just find the intersection point between marginal revenue and marginal cost. We need to be able to draw a payoff matrix and do step-by-step analysis, which we'll be covering also in the later videos. But now that we understand what interdependence is, payoff is the next idea. Well, payoff is basically the reward that an oligopolist or some entity can receive. In the context of little children, it can be little candies, or in the context of prisoners, it can be being released from jail early. But regardless, in the case of a monopolist or in the case of an oligopolist, the primary concern is profit, which is why the payoff, the reward in this case, would be profit. But last but not least, let's talk about the payoff matrix in depth. So I'll be telling you how exactly to draw a payoff matrix. So drawing a payoff matrix is quite simple. Firstly, you need to draw a big square. Then you divide the square into different regions, in fact 8 of them. Now notice, the 8 regions I have drawn are composed of 2 lines that go horizontally and vertically, as well as 3 diagonal lines that go in this direction. The next step is to label the 2 stakeholders or the entities that are involved in the game or in the payoff matrix. So this would be actor 1 and this would be actor 2. Now the next step is to label the choices that each of these firms can take. So this is choice A, this is choice B for firm A. Now, this is choice A and this is choice B for firm B or firm 2 or firm 1. Now, the next thing is to label in the consequences that each firm will have upon making a decision in relation to another. So one example would be 2 prisoners. So if we have here prisoner 1 and prisoner 2, the 2 options that they can have is to either confess or lie. So I will replace the choices. So I labeled the choices with lying and confessing. Now we can label in the consequences, which will be, in this case, the length of the term that they will serve in prison. So if both firm 1 and both firm 2 lie, then the consequence will be 10 years of jail for each of them. But if prisoner 1 decides to lie and prisoner 2 decides to confess, what would be the consequence for prisoner 1? Well, it would be a shortened prison term, which is 5 years, whereas for prisoner 2, it would be longer, of 15 years. Now, the third set of consequences would be here, where if prisoner 1 decides to confess and prisoner 2 decides to lie, prisoner 2 will get 5 years in jail, whereas prisoner 1 may get 15. And last but not least, if prisoner 1 and prisoner 2 both decide to confess, as we'll talk about later, this may be when they both decide to reach a certain point or some sort of agreement, would be a compromised 8 years for each of these prisoners. Now, this is one way that we can draw the payoff matrix.